Hi, Janelle here, and I am going to do a video today on how to make an herbal tea blend. So hopefully I have a good enough demonstration area here. Move this back a little bit. I want to make sure I'm recording. Okay, so let's go over the materials you would need. You need a container to put in your tea blend, or a jar, or both. You can use the container to mix and then put it in the jar for storage. I only use like really hard plastic. This is Rubbermaid. I would not use like a cheaper kind of plastic that could give off, toxins into my tea blend. So I use something like really tough. I also use a scale. This is just a 1 pound kitchen scale, and it works well for herbs. And then what I have here are, I have various things. I have powdered stevia. I have different roots. So I wanted to explain how to make a tea blend with roots. So I have burdock root, marshmallow root, licorice root, and elderberry. And then I have my loose herbs to make a loose tea blend. I have red clover that I dried from my garden, red raspberry leaf, nettle, catnip, peppermint, and lavender flowers. It smells so good. Okay, so if I were going to make a tea blend with roots, I don't mix my roots with my loose leaf, because to make the tea with the roots, you have to simmer the roots on the stove in water and for at least 10 minutes. And you're not going to do that with the leaf. You'll kill all the properties. So let's say I was going to do a tea blend with roots. And so you have to kind of, to mix teas, you do have to be knowledgeable in what kind of tea you want to make, as far as the purpose and what the different herbs do and their taste. So if you do not know that information, finding a recipe from someone would be a good place to start. And I'm trying to think. Probably, I just love Rosemary Gladstar. So any of her books, I wish I had a book written, and I don't yet. But otherwise, there are numerous sources and resources of finding tea blends. But it is really helpful if you have knowledge of your plants before mixing your own herbs. So I know that licorice root is very sweet. I know that marshmallow root is very sweet. I know that my burdock is more bitter. It's sort of like dandelion, but I wouldn't use that as my base herb. So for me, excuse me. Oh, excuse me, too much herb dust. For me, the base herb would be, I would use the licorice root, and it is a little bit more on the sweeter side. But let's say if I want to know proportions, so I'm going to measure, and I'm just going to do a small amount here for the purpose of this video. So I'm going to measure what I'm going to do, 1/2 ounce of licorice root, and that will be my 1 part. So 1 part could be 1 ounce, but I'm not going to mix that much because I'm doing this video. So I would do I'm just doing 1/2 ounce, which is my 1 part of the licorice root. So I'm just going to pour that back in, because I'm not actually going to mix that one. I'm going to mix the loose. So the burdock, I want to have 1/2 as much. So I'm going to do a quarter, so I did a ½ ounce of the dandelion, of the licorice, which is my 1 part. So my ½ part is going to be the burdock, and I will have 1/4 of an ounce. And then I'm also going to use marshmallow root, and I'm going to do the same amount as the burdock. So then I put it on the scale and I measure to 1/4. So if I were writing the formula down, I would put 1 part licorice root, ½ part burdock, ½ part marshmallow. And the parts can be whatever the first measurement is. If I have 1 ounce as my 1 part, then that's what I start with. So I know because I've made tea a lot, that I like marshmallow root, and it's a great herb for digestion and soothing the cavities in your body, the esophagus, all the linings, the mucosal linings. But it's when you make tea from it, it's a little bit slimy, and I don't want so much of the marshmallow root, so that's why I'm not putting as much as the licorice. And I love the licorice, so I'm using that as my 1 part. Okay, so now we're going to just move on to the loose leaf, and I'm actually going to mix this one and keep this, and I'll use it for my morning tea for a while until it's gone. So when I'm making a tea blend, I pick like a bigger leaf as my base, not only for its medicinal value, but also because if I'm mixing all kinds of little herbs, like these are little petals together, I'm not going to, get as much, and the petals are more fragrant. They're just like a sprinkling, whereas the red raspberry leaf, it does have flavor, but it's not overpowering, and you can just really make a good base with it. So another herb I often make a base with, if I want something more minty. Now this is very strong, but the peppermint, I know it will overpower, but sometimes I want a tea that's very minty. Red clover is a good base if I'm making like a blood cleansing tea, and that would be my purpose. So this isn't an overpowering flavor either, and I would start that as a base. But I'm going to go use red raspberry as my first herb. So I'm going to have 1 part red raspberry leaf, and it's really light and fluffy. So you have to measure quite a bit, versus when I was measuring the roots, I just had a little bit of root on the bottom of this dish here. You could barely see it. So I'm going to have 1 ounce and 1 part red raspberry leaf. And nettle. This is also an herb that is more mellow in taste, but very nutritious, high in vitamins. So I'm going to do the same measurement. So 1 part nettle, or 1 ounce nettle. So put both of those together. So those are my 2 main herbs in this blend. Then I want to do red clover. And I drink a lot of red clover. It's hormone balancing. So depending on if you are going for that action or not, that is a good herb for people who do need that balancing effect. And I know that in some cases, especially if you're on medication, it would be counterintuitive, and some if you have cancer that is hormone sensitive, people do not drink red clover tea. But for me, I'm drinking red clover. It's very, very nutritious. The clover has deep roots, and good for keeping the blood purified. So I'm doing a half part or half ounce of red clover. And then I have my catnip, which is good in B vitamins, strong B vitamin herb. And I'm just going to do a quarter part of the catnip, or a quarter ounce. And peppermint, I'm only going to do a quarter ounce either, because although I like peppermint, I don't really like it to have a strong taste. But this is nice for digestion. So starting the morning with an herb for digestion is a good way to start the day. And then, since I have I'd like to add flower petals when I can. And I love adding rose. I don't have any rose right now, so I'm going to use a little bit of lavender, and I'm going to just do a quarter part lavender. So I had 1 part or 1 ounce red raspberry leaf, 1 part or 1 ounce nettle, half part or half ounce red clover, quarter part or quarter ounce catnip, and quarter part or quarter ounce lavender. And now everything is in this container, and I'm just going to mix it. And then I will put on a lid and label it, put the date, put all the herbs and their parts. And if I really like the blend, if it's a new blend, I will put it in my recipe book and keep it so that I can make it again. So I don't know if I've ever mixed these specific herbs together. It was just kind of what I grabbed. So we'll see. It smells good. So we'll see how this tastes when I turn it into tea. Thanks for watching.